Hey guys, I just wanted to send you a quick PowerPoint on PowerPoints and other teaching strategies and some of the research that supports the most effective ways to use these. So in here, basically the traditional way of learning is this. For lecture today, I will do nothing more than read these 80-slide PowerPoint word for word and insinuate that every point will be on the exam. So good luck studying. And often I've noticed that our PowerPoints that are on the Evolve site, some of them do have really good pictures, but a lot of them are just threaded with bullet point after bullet point. And my opinion is the people that made these PowerPoints, not necessarily, there's just so much information that it just becomes easier to kind of fall back on those bullet points. So the students don't really understand what's going on and what's the most important concepts because everything is on there and there's a bullet point. Common mistakes is this list here, this boring presentation. It's, bullet points. Avoid at all costs. It really takes away from what? Important concepts, because there's more and more bullet points that keep coming below and below, and they just never stop. And they just, from this slide to the next slide. So when you compare these slides, if you want to look to see what looks a little bit more engaging, is this picture that it's telling you something, and it's telling you it without a bullet point. And in the end, it makes for a better learning experience. We want to focus on being student-centered. So if you see here, you can see that this teacher it's less us and more them. And we want to create this student-centered learning, which means using academic approaches that students learn best by. Are they a visual learner? Do they learn best by physical demonstration, videos? Do they like to just read? Do they like to work in groups? Would they rather play a game? Do they like stories? So understanding your audience, especially for the new instructors and when you get a new cohort, is the biggest initial thing. And then you can tailor your lectures to fit your students. So instead of using lectures that you've used from time to time to time, you could use some of the similar content, but you can't guarantee that you have the same students sitting there time and time and time again. I don't learn by reading. I don't learn by a PowerPoint, but I can learn visually. So our goal is to, overall, we want to reduce the PowerPoints, and I really encourage you guys to take the PowerPoints that are on Evolve and make them individualized and tailor them to be your personalized slide and be innovative. So the biggest thing is learning student-specific strategies. And a lot of it is going to require a little bit more research on your part. Know your audience and less PowerPoints. When you get into slides, visual presentation is a big thing. Often we see that real life picture can portray a lot. In this here, you've got the light coming through. There's more of a earthy feel. Peace, calm, emotion is actually, for me, transpired in this picture. When I go to this picture, I think second grade art, and I don't really think much more about it. So if you're incorporating images, it's always best to choose images that are real life images, depending on what you're talking about. Obviously with diagrams of the anatomy and stuff like that and the heart, you're going to need the clip art, but in other situations, it's best to use real life images. Graphing can be great, but graphing like this is horrible. And for me, my initial impression was, what does this even mean? And so I don't want to listen to a teacher tell me what this line means and what it means compared to this line, and then this line down here with the triangles, and then this line here, and I just, you're losing me in the whole concept of it. If you look over here, this is something very simple. You can plug in your data, you can see the flow of it. You want the data to actually strengthen what you're saying and not just confuse the students. This is a little bit of a picture. It's almost something you could print out or something you could kind of reflect on about. And this is a different type of learner in order for you to understand how to put innovative teaching strategies. You've got, your different types right here. And then if you look at the activist, this is someone who likes to do things. They learn by touching. They like to be involved. So this is your learner that probably would benefit a lot of learning, maybe going over to the sim lab. This one here with reflection, you guys can also encourage journaling and really get that effective type learning for this person so that they can self-evaluate their feelings and kind of draw conclusions on how they're feeling, especially when you're getting into the ethical side of things. So this is just kind of a guide that shows you really what does it mean when I keep saying innovative teaching strategies. And so this is kind of the support for why I say what I say. I'm not just making it up. I have the most contemporary knowledge, being that I just graduated, and this is what's out there. This is what is supposed to be encouraged. So sometimes it's not always what we've been doing for so many years is what should be going on. And so you see on the top is this little lecture. And when we say lecture, we don't just mean the theory portion. We mean just the teacher standing in front of a room and talking for 6 hours. I mean, studies support that after a few hours of a teacher just talking, the students become disengaged and the material really is not being absorbed at all. So you kind of gain some more ground when you start going lower with reading, and demonstration is great, discussion, and this practice doing, you can see this is where, when we hear the rhetoric and the repetition of things, simulation guides, this is why, it's being said. And in the end, when you've got students who can teach other students, I mean, that is the ultimate level of learning for these students. So suggestions that I've just come across, we've got role playing, assigning. This becomes role specific in class. You can create scenarios and you can assign specific roles. You can have them research what they're supposed to do for the role. And you can tie in a lot of your concepts with that, with demonstrations, creating those mind mapping concepts. So getting on that board and creating those concepts. Or teaching students how to create a concept, a mind mapping one. So dissecting these hard subjects like, hypopituitary, disorder, or some sort of endocrine problem. This is where you want to focus on mind mapping, because these are the concepts that you can't really explain away. And storytelling is always fun. It requires a lot of imagination, but you can begin to tell stories with the new concepts, and kids, the students, they find it funny, and they find it engaging, and they can learn. And games are a huge component of learning. So a lot of this is also taking the time to do some research and figure out how to incorporate these games. There's a lot of information available on the internet that you could find that other classes have done that worked, that you could adapt to your class. So with the role playing, I just kind of broke it down a little bit. On the outer circles, you've got your communication, developing, group decision making. And so this is what the goals are and what's going on with the role playing and why role playing is being used. Mind mapping, this is a great example of how you would mind map or do a concept map of time management. This is really detailed in drawing, but this is a concept map. And you center your problem, you kind of categorize the major key points, and then you further define the smaller areas that are very relevant to that. And so they could see, within the nursing process, you could really tailor this example and make it, much simpler or even more full. As I mentioned, games are always a fun thing for the students. obviously we're not going to play Pac-Man, but this here is a link. So if you're able to copy and paste it, I found a great resource that gives you ideas on specific games when you're covering specific units. So you could take a look at that and see if there's anything that you could apply to your lecture. Brochure making is a great project and group work. Give them a subject, let them do, you know, a column for nursing interventions and your signs and symptoms and your lab work, and put it together and let them get creative and spend time with it. And it's really something that in the end you guys could display as a class, and really you could learn, you know, 4 or 5 major diagnoses going over that. And humor is always a way to get your class engaged. You could start your class out with something funny. I found this humorous, but also this is kind of funny to me too. And then I said this won't hurt a bit, you know, because sometimes you just got to have a little funny nursing humor to get through those difficult times. And I touched up a little bit about the group discussion, and this can break up in a lot of ways. You could have groups within groups, you could have a big group, but if you notice the picture here, this is something that is round table. So when you're having a group discussion, you don't want to segment people or separate people, because physiologically they are separated, so it's hard to become a cohesive group when you're separated. So you'd want to get up and position things differently. And keeping things simple. When you over-explain things, which I tend to do, you lose your audience, and you kind of lose what you're trying to say to people. So, and I really like this saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So this kind of says a lot about preparing for your lecture as well. So I encourage everyone to please share their innovative ideas. You know, I'm kind of wanting to come up with things, and you know, maybe some sort of collaborative board. Sometimes just communicating by email gets a little bit old, because it's just kind of one of those expected platforms of communication. But please share your ideas with everyone, and things that you found your students really liked, and you never know, it can really help out another teacher. So thank you for listening. I enjoy doing these videos for you guys, or these slides, and I just want to see us continue to grow and kind of embrace each other and embrace everything that's going on. And I know there's a lot of changes, but we are a strong group. We are full of a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. But not only that, we have a lot of innovation, and we have a lot of creativity and a lot of potential. So we do need to embrace every aspect of that component. Thank you.